Quark is such a good criminal, he transcends time and space here. On V'ger, please, a vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
You know, if I had some sort of high school reunion coming up and people said, "Hey, man, how you been?" I would say, "Terrible. I just watched Little Green Men on Deep Space Nine." I'm your co-host, Peter.
Well, before we get into how much you didn't like this episode, there's a couple things that we should talk about. The first being some IRL space travel, because I have been super into the Artemis 2 mission since it launched. I guess it's a few days ago from when we were recording this on Monday, I think.
I know nothing about this. The Artemis, as far as I'm concerned, is just the Star Trek bridge simulator that I adore. What is the Artemis mission?
It's Artemis 2. It is the first manned mission to the moon since 1972. So this is the new powerful rockets ever made. The module that's going to do the actual travel and set up for manned missions in 2028 that'll actually land on the moon, because next year they're going to do a mission to test like the lunar lander and that sort of thing.
Is this all prep work for Mars?
Yeah, this is all prep work for Mars, because they want to build a moon base, a lunar gateway. And this is all to have practice ground to practice.
I forget, were you watching For All Mankind or no?
I watched the first season, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those shows like I need to continue to watch it, but it's on Apple TV. So it's like I have limited access to that material unless I
think I stopped in season 3, but so what's the highlights on Artemis 2?
They're going to go farther than any humans have ever gone into deep space because of the orbit they're going to take around the moon. They're going to take a wider turn than any of the Apollo missions. So they will set that record. I think it's just a demonstration of like they did this with 60s technology before, and now this is like, I would say this is essentially mid 2000s technology based on when it started development.
Mm-hmm.
And how much like they got a working toilet in there now and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to see us finally like taking these affirmative steps towards space exploration after what felt like really a couple decades of just not trying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a couple decades of just like, we're doing the space station, and then the space shuttle stuff came to an end and there was no real clear replacement. It took a long time for the next step to be taken, but it's finally here though. Like we're finally gonna go around the moon, and they're planning on doing an Artemis launch every year to build towards actually having a manned landing in 28, and then by 2030 both the lunar gateway and the beginnings of the actual base on the moon, which, let's face it, that's about as sci-fi as it gets, right? Like we'll have a moon base. It will finally happen. This thing that people have been imagining for 100 years will finally have occurred in our lifetimes. That's so cool. The Star Trek of our day is finally starting to arrive. Or the Warhammer 40K. I don't know. We'll find out when we try to do faster light travel at some point, right?
True.
Unknown yet. Unknown yet.
What horrors await us in deep space? And
then like watching Project Hail Mary, like I think has gotten everybody in the sort of space mode, and not exactly a I think a stunning thing to say. Like that's a great movie. Martian was good too.
Sure.
I'm up for IRL space travel, just like the fictional stuff. Maybe we'll find aliens.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole again.
My wife had a great comment, like they're going to pass, on the far side of the moon, so there's going to be communications blackout.
That's where the Transformers are, right?
Yes, that's what we've learned. And she said, like, hopefully they've got some sort of. I said they have some sort of machine to draw a dick in the dark side of the moon or something while no one's watching, right? Like, all right, you're off the communications grid. You can do whatever you want. And then they like come back around and they like call Houston, like, "Sir, you'll never believe it. There was already a dick there." And then I guess the other thing I wanted to bring up was Red Letter Media apparently like took all our jokes when they did Voyager season 1.
Oh yeah.
Not to say like they weren't jokes anyone could make. I guess that's proof in the pudding. But if you wanted to hear Rich and Mike Stoklasa come to the same conclusions that we did, although they liked Time and Again, which was a dark mark on their record as far as I'm concerned.
Red Letter Media is something that I have watched in the past, but most review sites now I try to avoid, and it's something you and I talk about frequently. we are in a similar lane to a lot of other YouTube content out there. And granted, our lane is much smaller and less congested, but it's two white guys somewhere in their 40s with less forgiving viewpoints.
we also like the fact that these are our takes and we're not, polluting them with influence from taking in other people's opinions, which is why I watched the Voyager one, because it's like, oh, we've done that, right? Like we're set so far in our past, I can just actually take this in. And
I saw it come up. I popped in there. I just picked a random point in the video and I just let it go for a couple seconds. And it was one of them just talking about how much they absolutely love the first season in its entirety. And I was like, wow, okay, well.
In context of how much they hate Kurtzman Trek, which is actually the thing I wanted to bring up. In the video, there is a moment when Mike Stelklasa says, like, I have sources at Paramount that have told me what the actual viewership was for Starfleet Academy. By the way, I believe it because he's friends with Jack Quaid, who we know is the voiced Boimler on Lower Decks. So the idea that he knows, and they did a Red Letter Media joke in Lower Decks.
Sure.
So yeah, I buy he knows. He said the total viewership on Paramount Plus for the entirety of season 1 was 400,000 views across all 10 episodes. Or approximately.
And it was like 200 and something $million to put that out.
It was 100 million for the first season. It's probably less for the second because they no longer have the sunk costs for all of the set build. $100 million, 10 episodes, 400,000 views. That is $250 a fucking view that they paid. I will also contend it's likely that's very front loaded. Most people probably tuned in for the first episode and then didn't watch the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a strong possibility, I would say even a likelihood, that the last episode of Starfleet Academy, or at least one of the episodes of Starfleet Academy, has less views on Paramount Plus than our interview with Feral Historian, which is like 12,000.
It's a good one.
Right? Like, I actually think that our podcast with, 610 followers on YouTube and a similar amount of subscribers across all the other podcast platforms. So like net a little over 1,000 of like built-in people who are paying attention to us on our best thing that we ever made in terms of viewership probably has legitimately beaten the viewership of an actual episode of Star Trek. That's how bad it got.
Well, it's a low bar. Speaking of low bars.
There you go. Now you the transitioner. What did we watch this week?
Season 4, Episode 8, Little Green Men. This first aired November 15th, my daughter's birthday, 1995.
Not a happy birthday to her.
Well, thankfully she wasn't alive to have to suffer this thing. Here's the guilty parties, all right? Stories by Tony Marbury and Jack Trevino. I hope both these people went directly in the garbage after this. Teleplay, Ira Stephen Bear, Robert Hewitt Wolf, directed by James Conway. We know James Conway.
Jack Trevino and Tony Marbury were the people who also wrote Indiscretion. So, they wrote a really good episode. Mm-hmm. And then this.
What's that picture of the horse where it starts off great and then it turns into dog shit?
So I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, maybe it's a wash, right? And then, yeah, Jimmy Conway is a director who, I don't think there's anything wrong with the direction of this episode. I also hate it less than you. I'm going to say her off the rip. I found it funny.
Oh my God.
It's not great, but I think there's worse. I guess you know what I'm doing? I'm grading it against other Ferengi episodes, and there are worse than this. And so I think that's
so help us God, Jesus Christ.
There's worse than this, and so I'm like, oh, I mean, this it's not Profit and Lace. I mean, it's like it's there's some chuckles here. There's some fun Quark content. There's Nog getting jacked off by Nurse Garland here. It could be so much worse than this. It will be so much worse than this. How bad could it be? But you don't have that perspective. You don't know these things, so you're looking at this and saying, you're out of your fucking mind. This is terrible.
It's a classic A plot, B plot. All right. Let's go with the A plot because it's what really matters in this episode. And that is Nog finds a picture of the Bell riots and an amazing display of continuity. Nog goes, oh my God, doesn't this look like Ben Sisko? This guy from Earth's history, in this very decisive point in like the most perfect moment of continuity and a great showing of actual humor. Quark's like, no, man, I'm face blind and all those people look the same to me.
Let's face it, that's what he said.
Basically.
Yes.
And it's great because like, oh my God, of all the things, and that, like the conversation that comes off of this is we've talked about before is when there are zany adventures, like what degree of classified does Starfleet apply to its misadventures? I have to imagine, we've heard many, many times from Sisko and Quark and Jadzia and Odo, secrets don't stay secrets on a space station like this. The truth gets out there. So was the events of the Bell riots and Jadzia and Bashir and Sisko going back in time and interfering in Earth's history, like, did they actually keep a lid on that? Or is it just reasonable to believe that the bartender and his nephew actually didn't get to hear that stuff?
I mean, I would assume temporal incursions is probably the line, right? Of like, maybe we got to keep this shit buttoned up a little bit.
But your pictures in the history, that's a joke you've made. Maybe it's a joke I can't give you credit for because you knew this part was coming up.
It's true.
But I have to think people like, man, Sisko went back and I could also understand too, like the Ferengi, like, I don't care about Earth's history. I don't care what the fuck they did. I don't care the Romulan cloak knocked people back in time. Although I would be kind of like, oh, they unmade all of history and for an episode and a half, we just didn't exist until Kira and O'Brien Rick and Morty'd themselves through time until they found the right portal and fixed things. Then there's the B plot, Joe.
It is a Ferengi Nonsense episode. We have to front load a bunch of stuff in the teaser with the rest of the crew because they're not going to appear otherwise. So we are having Nog sell all of his belongings as part of a Ferengi tradition before he goes to Starfleet Academy. Laugh line of Worf buying a tooth sharpener after O'Brien has to remind him that he was once the weird alien at Starfleet Academy.
Joking aside, this episode, up until the point they wake up in the military infirmary, is pretty solid, if not good. I like the culture. Again, the Ferengi life cycle, they have their coming of age thing, right? And then they take all of their liquid assets and they try to buy an apprenticeship. And that was Nog going to Sisko and being like, hey, please sponsor me. Here's my bribe, sanction bribe. Now it's time for him to go off and pursue these things. I'm going to sell off all of my childhood possessions. Again, like, seems very coming of age, when I become a man, I got rid of my toys. Love the tooth sharpener bit. I don't know about Worf's decision as an enlightened space person in the future about putting something that's been in someone else's mouth in my mouth, let alone
we're so post-disease, he doesn't understand the problem. People who don't understand headaches, so they don't understand the germ theory anymore.
That's true. Someone pointed out on, I think our Discord, that Worf goes to great lengths to not use names, and it's always the Ferengi bartender, the Ferengi child.
People he doesn't like. He describes them instead of saying who they are.
It's interesting to see Berman era Trek, which is still enlightened and very progressive. And then there's things that you and I would quantify as like racist, right?
Absolutely.
The Vulcan. And I mean, that's really heavily featured through Enterprise. And I think that's an important part of Enterprise. It was Archer getting past his bigotry of the Vulcans. And
whatever you would call that for a different species. I guess like there is a level of separation as to what the bigotry is. It's not racism in the way that like, oh, I'm discriminating against other humans on the basis of my belief that some trait of that other human.
Xenophobia?
But it's not quite the same. It's not that they're scared of them. It's that they judge them harshly and stereotype them. It is like racism, but it's for a different species.
Like, I mean, Shran's in there too, calling them pink skins and
whatnot. Yeah, it's all around. Don't get me wrong. Everybody does it, and everyone does it deep into the enlightened future. Like this, and that makes sense because there is still a tremendous amount of separation between even like closely allied species within the Federation. They're all very different. They all have to continue to kind of acknowledge each other's differences. It probably builds some tension between them where they're like, well, fucking Vulcans, like, sure, yeah, like everyone here has got emotions, like they're all humanoid.
But Worf being the projector of these is an interesting choice. I assume it's all load up as part of a character arc he's going to go through. Because from what I've picked up off of you, I can foresee Worf turning into a mentor for Nog, and it's going to be we are both pathfinders for our species becoming part of Starfleet, and like, yeah, why not set him at the lowest point possible so he can have the longest and most fulfilling journey overall?
I think it's more that Worf is just blunt, and so he's a good instrument for the writers to use to express bluntness. Though it's a line that would seem awkward from anyone else, but from Worf, it's like, yes, that's how he would probably feel about that.
I like that it's Miles O'Brien that kind of
needles him a little.
Corrects him, but it's just like, yeah, listen, pot calling the kettle black here, sir. I am the one who administered his test. I watched this kid pull it off. He deserves to go into that cadet uniform, and like the rest of us, I see the potential. You just haven't had your buddy episode with him yet to know that. Real quick though, jumping back to Archer, my neckbeard nerd blogosphere people are saying that Skydance has some big plans for Trek, that there's 2 Trek movies that are currently being written. They haven't disclosed what the timelines are. All the Kurtzman stuff's going to be gone, but they are saying that this United thing is going to move forward. And this, maybe this is side content we should have or something. But like, boy, I feel like going back to the Enterprise is such a bad decision. I get that Scott Bakula wants to be involved in that. There is a type of star power there, but you're talking about the worst performing Berman era property that absolutely and rightfully no one gave a fuck about. And that's what you're going to go back to. Like,
we did talk about this when it was first brought up, and
that was an initial super rumor. I think this is getting pretty firm now.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because I think deviating into this is a perfectly acceptable thing to do
in light of this shit episode. Yes,
yeah, please. We got to find other things to talk about because I know you ain't going to want to talk too much about Nurse Garland jacking off Nog's ears.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Bakula; it's Sussman, because Sussman's behind it, and this is something I brought up actually when we were watching Starfleet Academy in Discord as to like what the real damage of the Kurtzman era is, and it's not just they spent a decade making progressively worse versions of Star Trek, and to the point where literally no one is watching it anymore, spending infinite dollars for zero result. The well of creatives who know anything about Star Trek is dry. There's no one left. Like Terry Matalas, boy wonder Terry Matalas is fucking 50 years old. Okay, like he which makes sense because he was a writer and a production assistant on Voyager and Enterprise, which that was a while ago. There's no farm system of Trek people anymore like there was back then. There's no generation to inherit anything. No one knows how to make Trek because no one has been making it
also, the way Matalas it was used to be made. Disney employee now too.
Yeah, it's like you can't even get him. Like that's why there's a lot of talk about, can we get Ron Moore to come be the Kevin Feige of Star Trek, right? Like he might be the only person that could do that, but they're really like wanting him to do a show, and he's like, I'm too old for that now. I'm happy to manage people, but I'm not going to spend my days having to hash out every fucking production detail of doing a television show anymore. I've been doing that for my whole career, which I respect, right? Like I'll be your creative director and I'll help, but I don't want to be the guys in the trenches. Sussman is somebody who has the pedigree, who's been involved, who's untainted really by the Kurtzman era, who wants to do it, and he has Scott Bakula wanting to do it with him. I think it's not just Bakula. If it was just Bakula, it'd be one thing. It's Sussman is like working the inside game to say like, there's a story here that we can tell. It can be a limited series. It's just I think their intentions are right.
That's the magic word right there, is a limited series.
Yeah.
You tell me limited series and I'm willing to give you a shot. That's what happened with Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I will give you 6 hours of my life for and there's going to be more seasons that or whatever, but like the short treks, that was one of the better things I think that format wise Kurtzman era did, was like, here is a story, and maybe it's not just side stuff, right? Mm-hmm. You want to drag Archer out of mothballs and try to get me to give a shit about, as one of the 16 people on the face of the earth that has watched Star Trek Enterprise all 4 seasons.
Right.
I'll give you 6 hours. Maybe I'll even give you 10 hours. I'm not going to give you 6 seasons. I'm not going to give you seasons.
And I think you brought up Night of the Seven Kingdoms correctly, because I think that is maybe the thought process that some folks are having of Game of Thrones is a damaged brand, right? And the same, obviously not as damaged as Star Trek
mortally
is.
Wounded. Man, I don't. There's a real question.
Yeah, I think
Game of Thrones is a global monolithic culture point that hemorrhaged millions of fans.
Yes,
and there's a lot of Trekkies, whatever you want to call us out there. There's a lot of Star Trek fans, and droves of us have been turned away, but not Game of Thrones numbers. So yeah, there's more damage, I think, over a longer timeline on Star Trek. But raw numbers, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, their drop off was much larger. But I think the pattern here that they're observing is, okay, they made Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which was inexpensive, compact, focused on characters, storytelling in a way that was really relied on actors doing the actor thing. And then you're in, you're out. You've told a complete story. You've built up some anticipation. You got people caring about your universe again, thinking about your universe again, wanting to be in and with your universe again. And it resets everyone's like thoughts about the vitality of that as a pop culture franchise, right?
So suddenly, it's a Trojan horse. And you're talking about sending Scott Bakula to my door, Jonathan Archer, the worst captain in Star Trek that I care about, to my door with flowers saying, baby, I'm sorry I did you like that. Please let me back in. And is there anybody in the Enterprise storyline that character-wise you care about? Unless you're bringing Trip back. I mean, I care about Jolene Blaylock, obviously.
I mean, I think there's a strong possibility that if this actually happens, you can probably make a lot more happen because you've got Bakula willing to front run this thing.
But the strength of, and I think Night of the Seven Kingdoms came out way too far apart from when they had to start getting the ball rolling on the United thing. So I don't think ultimately your observations here are valid. But Night of the Seven Kingdoms absolutely was powerful because it's a story about characters. There's nothing appealing about this Enterprise United era thing about the individual characters. It's the era that I think they would want to focus on, or they would have to focus on, because again, fuck Archer. He's a shit character. So like, what's the balance? Like how, I need the Romulan War. All right. I need the Romulan War.
We can't get that, right? Like the idea here is let's use Bakula in the state that he's in. He's at the age where Archer would have been president of the Federation. Let's tell the prelude story of the Federation's existence, right? Like here is him doing the thing that ultimately they did figure out for his character, which we talked about in season 4, which was very good. And he was very good in it. He is a diplomat. He is the guy who figured out that humanity's role is that they can be the glue that binds all of these other species together into something that allows them to be greater than they are individually. So like when we're talking about like how he mediated all of the Vulcan issues, how he eventually brought the Andorians and the Vulcans and the Tellarites together and settled Earth's own internal disputes as it relates to its place in the universe and its willingness to accept alien races to be part of it. This is the character development we finally belatedly, far too late, got with Archer. And that explains why his future is to be the president of the Federation, because he was the person who essentially invented the concept in real time. And so a limited series where you have a beginning, a middle, and end, you tell your story and you prove that Star Trek can still work the way it's intended, with him saying, this is a work that goes on and I'm going to have some, I've got kids and I've got drama that I've got to sort through, and it's a proxy for this work that I'm doing, and we're gonna go through that story, and I'm gonna get to the end of it. That's the kind of thing that I think if they can make, and they can do it cheap, and they can do it and get positive attention, it allows for better things to happen. It allows for people to come forward with more ideas to say, oh, like, okay, now that we've proven Star Trek's not dead, the Star Trek can actually be quite compelling. Even using Enterprise and Archer, which is not something that a lot of people necessarily have a ton of positive nostalgia for. Now I'm willing to entertain your other ideas as to what you want to do. You got to proof of life first, and you're not going to get anybody to put any kind of money into a fresh concept until you do that. And what else is out there? Who else can come back from the nostalgia days and provide anything? No one. You're hard locked out of anything in TNG. You're hard locked out of anything of Deep Space Nine. You've kind of done what you can do with the Voyager people, and it wasn't very good. That leaves you with Enterprise, and this is probably the only story to tell.
I don't like that, man.
And if you do it and you do it right and people like it, then suddenly the doors open up, the money becomes available because you've proven it's a commercial enterprise worth investing in.
It's the worst door out of 3 doors. All right, now that you've put me back in a bad mood, we can talk more about Little Green Men.
That's good. Okay.
So the garage sale, it's pretty cool. It's nice to see Sisko really leaning into supporting Nog. And I do like the undiscussed meta plot here. The implications of what bringing Nog into Starfleet means for Federation and Ferengi Alliance diplomacy. And that's reflected indirectly by Sisko twisting Worf's arm into going into this thing. Later on by Quark being like, he has no business going into Starfleet. I am not supporting this at all. And still being very openly anti-Starfleet for Nog. I liked Kira's spring ball racket, which the last time I think we saw these things was her playing with, was her robot boyfriend's name?
Vedic Bareil.
Yeah. I liked him selling his hollow porn to Julian Bashir.
Was it a visit from the pleasure goddess of Rix? And then Dax bought it for him?
I like that he's like, hey, what is this thing? And at first I couldn't tell it was a clone sample. I was like, does he have a vape pen? Which is funny because like narcotics addiction and like this unhealthy stuff like vape does become such a big focus as the tertiary plot of this episode, which is a 90s anti-smoking ad.
Yeah, this is apparently the compromise position because the people involved in production said, like, if this story happens in 1947, everyone has to be smoking. And it's like, how do we have that on screen and not comment on it in 1995? So they have the Ferengi talking about how you're killing yourselves.
Sure. And then the important part of the episode happens, and it's, hey, I got a shuttle. My cousin, is this the cousin who owns the moon?
Yes. And we're actually going to see this cousin eventually. He's actually going to be a character on screen in a couple episodes. So yes, apparently he lent him the Latinum to start his arms dealing business, which, you think you'd have a little bit more gratitude, but I guess Quark does rub people the wrong way. So, I can buy it. He soured the relationship. And he gets a shuttle and he has Rom inspect it. This is definitely the beginning of Rom is a secret technical genius, like really coming into its own. We've seen him like with the locks and some of the stuff he's done in the past. Even like his now buried history of trying to drone strike his own brother in an airlock, did require technical know-how. But this is apparently Rom is so good he can travel through time.
He's right up there with Scotty.
Yeah,
one of the all-time best.
Yeah.
I was going to give him shit for missing that the ship was sabotaged, but his on-the-fly fountain of technobabble to vent warp plasma into the cargo hold, which why do you even have the systems in the ship to do something like that? Seems like a very dangerous button to have on the console that you could absolutely accidentally hit. Like, oh, we're doing a medical relief thing. They need this penicillin real bad. oops, I tainted it all with warp plasma. Or, oh, the cargo holds full of medical refugees as we're trying to fly. Oh my God, you're not going to believe what just happened.
I do appreciate that the substance used as the smuggling plot to allow for the time travel was chemosite, and that Enterprise writers took that and made whole fucking plot out about it because in the Zindia arc, because he needed it to like create the Doomsday weapon. It's not defined what it is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, they're like, we need Doomsday MacGuffin stuff. What should we use? And like, go back, like, what's this? Chemosite? Fuck it. That's it. That's the stuff. Right? Like, so this is like super illegal, material that Quark, trying to kill two birds with one stone, but very stupidly deciding that a really good idea for smuggling is to take your ship, go to the very heart of the Federation, where all of the Federation's sensors and ships are. Hope you don't get caught with your illegal cargo, and then, go smuggle it elsewhere after you drop your nephew off at the military academy that he has now gotten into.
2 words, ramrod. And these are 2 words that we have not used in Deep Space Nine very frequently, and it was the backbone of Star Trek Voyager. This is a ramrod episode. We want to send the Ferengi back to Roswell, New Mexico, sometime in the 40s.
Right. This is supposed to be they were the Roswell incident. That's it. That's the whole plot. The Ferengi were the Roswell incident.
And how do we get Quark onto Earth? And everything about this is flimsy and shitty. He's going to he's going to leave the bar in Morn's hands instead of one of his own people. And
they spackled it,
dude. So, next
You're
generation.
Cringing at the fact I said that. I enjoy.
I'm just cringing at the entire setup here, because Deep Space Nine has been so hyper competent in its writing and its adherence to its own Bible and the respect that it has shown to the viewership. And this thing just flies in the face of all of it. They had a funny joke someone told over dinner, and they turned it into an entire episode of just slapstick bullshit slip and slide to force it onto screen. And it just flies in the face of all of the standards of quality that Deep Space Nine has put out there. So again, I've liked the Ferengi episodes. The Ferengi episodes are great when it's talking about Ferengi culture. It's going to Fregnar, and it's its own thing. And we're going to have aliens that can talk and walk. They're not going to be in a jail. They're just going to be in a room with a door. We're going to fill it with army guys nonstop who have never pointed guns in their life before.
Yes, they all went to the Malcolm Reed School of Pointing Guns.
And we are going to treat a major turning point in Earth's history with the least amount of common sense possible to tell a silly little story. And
it is a silly story, and I think the separation between you and me with it is I'm willing to accept that it's just like a silly interlude story because they want to do a little tension breaking, and because they've done a lot of very serious plot. Viewing into this all as a very, everything has to remain kind of seriously within continuity.
Make this a holodeck misfunction. And that's the key, is when you want to start doing this time travel situational haha, trap the characters in a bad holodeck episode. All of a sudden, all the bad writing feels very appropriate to whoever created the holodeck program. You're not doing real damage to anything around you. And
that's why the A-plot has that reference to the Bell Riots, because they're basically saying, like, this is our goofy Ferengi version of that. Where
that wasn't a goofy, silly thing, though. And that's the problem with this episode, is they've done a time travel to Earth episode specifically. We already did this fucking episode. Star Trek Deep Space Nine characters on Earth in pivotal moments. And it was handled with so much gravity and respect. It was, what, a 2-parter or a 3-parter? 2-parter. Right? And it was just this little blip in human history, but it's like, fuck, man. Like, we are really going to be in the moment. We're going to talk about the impact that this has. And that was the right way to do that thing. And there's going to be some social commentary there, but like, it's a time travel episode. And great. And then there's this fucking thing. And they both came from the same people, and they both came from the same TV show. And one was excellent and one is just atrocious. And I'm thankful they gave us to this, because it's hard to pick the bottom 3 episodes of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine season. But here's a third of my work done for me instantly.
You got another contender too, to consider as we move forward. We got Rejoined too. I mean, that one wasn't great.
I can't even remember what Rejoined is. This thing has burned itself in my memory. Also, damage we're doing here. this little bullshit shuttle, and Rom's real sweet on it. Like, this thing is cherry. This is nice. This is fresh off the factory floor. Hey, let's take Nog to Earth in it. And how many days do they put in this thing? Because I just told you, apparently the standard is a Galaxy class would be 10 days at emergency speeds to
Correct.
Earth.
I forget exactly how much time they spend in the ship. I'm trying to go back through the memory alpha to see if
I don't think they even really say, but like, it appears to me that Quark's just basically sleeping in the captain's chair. They say there's some like living quarters in there. So
I mean, they talk about the distance, that it's, far enough to like really test it, but not so far, not dangerous. Like, they respect distance to a degree. I don't think they define exactly how long it's taking them, nor do they actually even define the speed of warp that the thing can go.
Again, I want to have deeper conversations here, but just the nonsense of this episode doesn't let me talk about like how many days was Quark realistically willing to be away from his bar? How much did he need to have wrapped up in this chemosite to make it worth him being away from the station for that long? The biggest, treating this episode fairly, the biggest miss in this episode is that when things go off the rails and they're like, fuck, this thing, someone cut the brake lines. We're going to die here. This is now a death trap shuttle. This is a big setup. And Rom has the amazing idea of using the smuggled cargo to try to stop things. Like, there is zero pushback from Quark about destroying this smuggled load. And I think that was like the real big miss of the episode for Quark as a character, is like, the greed is not there when push has come to shove. Like, there was zero pushback. I'm like, there's got to be something we can do before we fuck up my $2 million deal or whatever.
I thought you were going to appreciate this episode because they really like actually tried to explain the universal translator. Like, this is the sort of thing you like, right? Like, it's in the ear, it can malfunction,
They use bobby pins to fix it, and I'm real into bobby pins right now because I'm playing Fallout 4 and I'm doing a lot of lock picking.
It lock picks the ear, right? Like, and that's what does it. You like that, right? Come on. You're not going for it. I'm sorry. Okay, so the whole episode is building to, let's do zany 40s screwball comedy stuff, right? Got a few actors who have kind of like played these roles before. You've got his guy who's like the cigar munching general, who's like
his name is Charles Napier. All right. His voice, this guy's got voice actor written all over him, except he has like the lantern jaw of lantern jaws.
He does.
Total that guy actor. I know him personally. This guy is the voice of Zed in the excellent Men in Black cartoon animated series.
He was also on Star Trek before, in the original series. He was the head of the hippies, the stereotypical super hippies. He had the lantern jaw then too when he was a young man. He was actually on the CW television show Roswell as a cigar chomping general. So
I opened up his IMDb and I did a search for general, and there are 7 tags in his.
Yeah. He's got the face of a general and he knows how to play it. So he does it great. Nurse Garland is played by Megan Gallagher, who we've seen twice before, you and I. She was the love interest in Body and Soul for the Doctor, but of course, she was also the hooker who whooped the shit out of Kira in Invasive Procedures, or played the character. Actually, the stunt woman was the same one from Star Trek V, which, is why we've given Kira a bit of a pass on why she got her ass kicked by a hooker. Spice Williams, I believe her name was. But I mean, she's perfect look for it, right? She's got that same as Agent Carter from Haley Atwell from the Captain America movies, right? Yep. Like, long brunette hair, golly gee willikers kind of sense to her. Like, all of them are cast very well for what it is they're supposed to be doing. I like the sort of fun comedy of Quark figuring out that he's in the past and therefore he can just manipulate circumstances to essentially run Earth and make sure that Ferengi get warp drive sooner and basically abuse the time-space continuum. He moves immediately towards the idea of greater profit because he's the Ferengi's Ferengi. I'll negotiate with you about selling you quantum torpedoes. Like, just no hesitation whatsoever.
I mean, this is an excellent. There could have been a really good story had this thing been treated like real. Like, That would have been a good Enterprise episode, since Enterprise like to be stupid temporal warp. Like, what happens if Earth's agency was robbed from it, and instead of making these discoveries in-house, someone came over and let them use a game genie? What does that do to Earth? What does that do to humanity? And that's one of the coolest things about the Ferengi, I think, is that they never developed warp drive. They bought it. What do they look like as a result? That capitalism was able to achieve something for them that other people earned in house. So like, that is a great concept, and it is absolutely shit on here because it's just this gag thing. But like, what if we turned Earth into Feregnar, essentially the spirit of Feregnar? What if, and it's like what, Time Cop, where people go back in the past and they try to market shit. We saw it too in Voyager with was a Sarah Silverman episode with Ed Bagley Jr.
Future's End,
right?
Time travel. Again, I think the core separation here is you, and I'm not criticizing you for this, Peter. I'm really not. I think it's a good observation for us to make. And this has actually been the case for the last 8 years. I think I am just more oriented towards liking the comedy stuff for the sake of I like comedy, right? Funny episodes or episodes that try to be funny, I give a bit more of a pass to. And rightfully so, because the show's seriousness and its continuity and as a real vector of doing incredible storytelling and taking that seriously is something that feels like interrupted by this. Like, you did all this good time travel stuff. Why are you giving me buffoonery, right? Why are you giving me silly, non-continuity, unexplainable buffoonery?
I can take the buffoonery. You're just putting it in such a high stakes story. Again, if this was a holodeck episode, I'm there. That's great.
Yeah, Bradicatica, for example. Yeah.
This is real. This is real Earth people. This was a real general. All this stuff really happened. It's now part of Earth's history. For a sloppy ass 45-minute joke episode like that sucks, man. You're hurting things.
Then Odo shows up.
Right, like,
apparently you can do a German Shepherd perfectly, but humans hard.
I wanted that German Shepherd to have Play-Doh face so bad. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this dog? Look like some bad AI slop.
Yeah, why you get the fur on a German Shepherd that good and you can't do facial features, Odo? What's wrong with you, man?
Changelings are furries, and their priorities are very clear.
Yeah,
at an innate level.
Or at least Odo's a furry,
Oh, man, the German Shepherd should have just had slick back, greasy hair.
Something needed to be wrong with him.
Well, there's a lot of product in this dog's fur.
I just like the fact that Odo fucked off from all of his duties to like just trail after Quark smuggling, banned substances.
What was it called? Not Ketracel. It's called what?
Chemosite.
Chemosite. I mean, again, chemosite's a big deal. I accept Odo fucking off from his duties to bust a major chemosite deal with the Andorians. Was it the Orions? I need Quark to care before Rom potentially destroys all of it. I need him to be like, so the way for us to get home is to destroy the rest of the chemosite. With that amount of chemosite right now, we really could have like God level control of the future of the galaxy. I do like that the people who have gone back in time ultimately don't give any shits about Earth and the suffering it goes through. Like, there's zero discussion whatsoever between Odo or the Ferengi of like, we could really save a lot of lives if we tell them about Wolf 359 or Dominion War, or
like Nog kind of cares about that stuff. But not. They do a clever thing where he's the one that's reading about Earth history because he's about to go to Starfleet Academy and he's bringing up, things that how different humanity is from Ferengi. So that is actually, I think, interesting content to take in.
Yeah.
Of like the Ferengi had warp drive and commercial enterprise thousands of years before humans did. Like the continuity on when warp drive would have been available to different species doesn't work the way Quark thinks. Like Vulcans and Klingons had it within, I think, like the Middle Ages of human development or whatever. but it kind of lends back to the idea that humans are kind of exceptional in terms of their development skill for civilization, that they've come onto the scene despite having a relatively short history compared to their peer species.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like that continued line of like that is what makes humans exceptional, is that they're just iterative in a way that some of these other species aren't, which is why that's why they made the Federation. It's why people follow them. And it's why they continue to have this kind of leading light element when it comes to, the organization that they've built. That's their perk, if you will, if you were like building this out as like a D&D character race traits, right? Like humans are just good at this. They're just good at just finding a way.
The universal translators for the Ferengi are located somewhere in the ear. They do have reset buttons. I'm assuming that they are getting interference from nuclear testing, which again, there's some more virtue signaling. I can't believe you guys are, no nukes. The English sounds like gibberish in reverse, which is terrible. And I'm happy as soon as they stop doing that and they turn.
I think it's like supposed to reflect like that it's not working, so you're getting it in reverse.
Oh, that's way better. Yeah. Okay, that's perfect.
I imagine if it was not in their ears, they might have been able to like understand what was being said better.
All right, we're at 40 minutes. Let's wrap this plot. So there's two people that are going to be our humanity traders, right? Nurse
Garland,
and then her fiance, Professor Kami.
Yes, Professor Communist Man. This is, by the way, this is the only reference to real world politics ever in Star Trek, when the general calls Truman a piano playing Democrat.
Interesting.
Which makes sense. Like, that's something someone would have said. Right? Like in 47, sure. Especially a guy who looks like the general.
They do not understand the real scope of what's going on here. And you've got some of the worst characters Deep Space Nine or Star Trek has to offer in terms of morality, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is Ferengi and Odo, who's not exactly moral. He's just, but not moral.
This isn't Riker. This isn't Data. This isn't Archer.
It's not Picard.
This is the slimiest fucking people we've ever had presented as like essentially main cast members. And they are able to persuade 1940s era pea-brain humans that like, hey, please help us escape. We have shown you no virtue or anything good. Our friend over here is essentially a goo monster. And we want you to disobey all orders and help us with this jail breakout sequence where you're going to attack everybody with guns as you guys are about to start a life together. Right? That's part of this too, is like, wow, there's this amazing discovery of aliens, and I'm more interested in our future together and how good we want it to be. And we're going to throw all that away to help you guys escape from the government so you can fly back and maybe conquer us. I don't know. I like when, obviously I'm from Cleveland, so the shout out to Cleveland being the primary invasion site is very welcome.
See, there's all kinds of things in this episode for you to enjoy.
Stop.
Let's just get to the end, right? Like they
quick,
escape.
When they're in the Jeep driving away to the hangar where their shuttle is, isn't that from the was it Enterprise where Archer ends up back in time?
Stormfront, yes.
And isn't that the alleyway where Bobby Bacala dies when they're
quite
attacking?
Possibly, like this
Nazi.
This is a very like cost savvy episode too. We haven't talked about that. Like they don't show anything that happens with the ship. It's all like flash of light and it happens. It's mostly takes place in an unadorned room. They basically just went to some other part of the Paramount lot that they had done up to be a military base, found a bunch of like wartime movie uniforms to put all the extras in, and we're like, all right, shoot the fucking thing. Like this. So yeah, they probably did that. They did that again when they did Stormfront. Probably the same sets, probably the same uniforms.
I'm sorry. This guy, by the way, it's 8 times he's a general. They don't spell out general when he was in Austin Powers as General Hawk.
Jesus Christ.
My bad.
So they managed to get back into their correct time, and we have to make it so not so that Quark doesn't have a ship. So apparently it was a total loss as a consequence of traveling through time twice with Chemosite, and they had to sell what was left of it so that Nog and Rom could come back to Deep Space Nine. And at the end, Odo still arrests Quark for smuggling Chemosite, which he says, like, well, you're not actually going to get me for it because there isn't any Chemosite left. There's no evidence there was a crime because there's no contraband. Kind of explaining in advance why he's not in prison next episode.
Trash.
That's it.
Trash.
That's it.
Fucking trash. I hated this thing. I couldn't get it through it fast enough. Awful.
All right. I will not labor anymore. Test your patience any further. Tell me what it is we're watching next week.
Speaking of tests, the Sword of Kalis. This is going to be, Got
core, yeah.
Got to roll the dice here. We got a LeVar Burton joint coming up. Story by Richard Danis, teleplay by Hams Beimler. Klingon Dar Master Kor, Jadzia Dax, and Worf search for the fabled Sword of Kalis on a remote planet in the Gamma Quadrant.
There's another thing here. Arc Worf versus Duras 9 of 9.
Man, these guys are still around, huh?
Yeah, this is like we're gonna clean up Worf's TNG backstory. Is really the purpose of this episode. Is, you know, kind of like all the hanging chads from everything that happened before, and also we've kind of got this other Klingon character that we're going to start reintroducing because we've used them and we had him survive blood fever, so we should probably make use of him. I'm going to be interested in your take on all of this. I think it needs to exist. I think there's an interesting story being told. It's also one of those things where I think Andrew's question to us of did Worf make Deep Space Nine better is like, this is one of those big question marks of like, did this add to things? Is it good? Is it not good?
I will say, answering that question for Little Green Men, Worf did make this episode better with the tooth sharpener joke.
He did. He was racist and then he sharpened his teeth, and that may have been two of the best things that happened in the episode.
That was two of the best three things that happened this episode.
So on that note, thank you so much for all of you for listening to Future Please, despite
Real
how
quick,
much Peter didn't want you to today.
We didn't talk about it all. All of the Nog Jake content was great.
Oh yeah, they didn't have a lot, but it was just a nice small farewell to the immediacy of their friendship. They're obviously going to interact a lot in the future. It's not like over. So I'm glad they didn't overplay it.
It's a good throwback of what their relationship started. They're standing there at their, what I'm going to call, maybe this will be the episode title, is the Learing spot.
Yes.
The Learing Center.
The Learing Center. As
they watch Bajoran hotties parade through the promenade. But these two people who, like, the train tracks crossed, and all of a sudden the commander's son is going to be this civilian, and it is the bartender's nephew that is going to go into Starfleet, and just anything can happen into space. And that it was Jake who pulled Nog out of ignorance and started educating him in private in the cargo bay, like this hidden secret from the families. That was good forecasting for Jake going on to becoming a writer, someone who has a passion for the art. And the potential, this wild, untapped potential that Nog ultimately has, same as his father, and rather than, squander it, he's going to go make something out of himself. So that, again, everything before the time travel point, they go back in the past, was pretty good in this. Looking forward to this next one, and looking forward to going back into the wasteland as I indulge my Fallout 4 problem.
And, to give you some hope for the future, Peter, Sword of Kalis, I think, is the last of the, I'm not quite sure exactly how we're going to receive this one. Is it good? Is it bad? We're going to go on a pretty incredible run of absolute gold for like most of the rest of the season after this. So I promise you, this is probably the lowest we're going to get for like the next several months of our lives watching this show. All right. On that note, thank you to everyone for listening to Future Please. This is probably where I should remind you to like, share, and subscribe more often. And a lot of you do. Oh, shout out to one of our constant YouTube commenters, Arcturus Minsk or Mensk.
Solid StarCraft reference.
Excellent StarCraft reference. Also, he is somebody who is soldiering through all of our past content, particularly the Voyager episodes, and he's somebody that I wish he would have been around 7 or 6 years ago, because he has some really funny takes, and he's depositing them on all of our YouTube videos to like, because now a lot of them have comments from back then, and I appreciate that just from a reading them perspective. He's doing it for me, you know what? So, sir, thank you so much, and we'll see you all next week.